20,000 subscribers almost is an interesting number for a YouTuber. On the one hand, I'm still a million miles away and many millions of subscribers away from lots of other channels. Despite me putting plenty of time into all this, there are probably people out there that have done nothing more than upload their cat on a skateboard and ended up with more subscribers and views than me. So I'm no expert on how to get results at this. But 20,000 is still 20,000 and it's a lot more than I thought I'd ever get. So I thought it might be a good time to do a little Q&A and answer 10 of the many questions I've been asked in recent months about YouTubing in general. So this video might not be of any interest if you're a regular watcher. There will be no cycling, no running, no lifting, and definitely no dogs, and probably no movie clips.
Surely you can't be serious.
So if that's not for you, feel free to skip this one and come back for the next video where normal business will be resumed. But if you want to know a little bit about the stuff behind my normal content, this might still appeal, and I'll probably squeeze a movie clip in somewhere as well. One of a cat on a skateboard if I can find one. Question 1 is always, how much money do you make from it? And I'm going to answer that one last, just letting you know now, it will get answered. Question 2, how long does it take to make a video? So stating the obvious, and like so many of these things I'm discussing today, it will be vastly different for every YouTuber. There are some people out there filming for 3 minutes on their iPhone, hitting upload, job done. Then others make 30 or 40 minute long film quality stuff that must take weeks if not months to put together. For me, once I have a solid idea, I normally spend a few hours writing on top of the few hours I would already have spent coming up with bits of ideas. I have a folder on my phone full of stuff that just springs to mind at 3 in the morning or when I'm driving the car. I just note it down and then flesh it out when I find I have a spare 5 minutes. I then pull those bits and pieces into a full script when I'm ready. Now not everyone does write like that, but I realised long ago the guys I love to watch on here, they have stuff like drone shots and fancy edits, all very cool, and I couldn't do any of it. I was just proud of myself if I got text to appear on the screen and then fly off. I've done a tiny bit of drone stuff, but really only when the location warrants it. So instead, I looked at what I could do. I had a history of giving presentations at work and a tiny bit of stand-up comedy experience, so I put time into making sure I presented my content well and with a little bit of humour, and that requires preparation and writing. I then film, and if that's just in here, it takes about 3 times as long as the final video. So a 20-minute video takes me an hour to film, which is a good ratio. It used to take ages to record anything. Then I invested in a teleprompter, got better at not stumbling over my words, and I made sure I record when the house is quiet and there's not a lot of traffic noise outside. Simple stuff that just made my life easier. Obviously, if the video is about something I'm doing outside, a race or something, that needs filming too. So it's not always as simple as just sitting here. But even if I'm out and about, I do like to anchor it from here, just to give everything some sort of consistency between videos. Then I dump the video, the audio and any outside stuff onto the iMac and edit it together, and that takes the longest time. I've got faster at it, it still takes hours and hours. A complicated video that bounces between footage in here and footage outside, that can take all day to edit easily, sometimes 2 days. I could churn stuff out quicker, but right now I like feeling that a finished video is how I want it to be and not rushed, just so I can start on the next one. So on average, something like this video, an evening or two writing, a couple of hours to set up and film here, a good few hours editing, 8, 9, 10 hours total at least. And this type of video, it's as simple as it gets for me. Question 3, do you need expensive gear? This is a tricky one to answer sometimes because, for example, the last guy that asked this wanted to start doing his own videos. I didn't want to put him off by explaining what I had spent. Now you can get a video up onto YouTube with nothing more than your mobile phone, and some people do and have millions of views doing so. For me though, I had 3 objectives. I wanted the process of making a video to be enjoyable for me and efficient, and the outcome looked good. So I dived in heavy, and on the day I created my YouTube account, knowing nothing at all about editing or videoing or even YouTube, my kid created the account, I brought an iMac. I then had to watch a tutorial on my PC to learn how to turn it on. And then I bought Final Cut Pro to edit with and 12 hours of online lessons to learn how to just use the basics of all that. But once I did learn the basics, like any good tool, that stuff helps all 3 objectives. Who doesn't enjoy using good kit? And good kit used right will make the job easier and the results better. The same reason I got a decent camera and lens, although I then realised it was too dark in here, so I had to spend out on lighting as well. Then I wanted to have a sharper image so I could cut in and out and yet retain quality. So that meant a 4K and therefore better camera, and then better lighting and GoPros and SD cards and microphones. So the list goes on and the costs go up. I gave up keeping a running total of what I spent once I realised that my latest light cost more than my first camera. Certainly well over £10,000 by now, so you can do it cheap, but I didn't. But when you compare what I spent to a rather expensive hobby or starting a business, depending on how you want to look at YouTube, hobby or business, what I spent is not that much. Plenty of people watching me will have a £10,000 carbon bike they might ride once a week. I use my hobby kit daily, and starting a business with just £10,000 is a bit of a bargain. So for me, however I regard YouTube, the cost of startup was just about justified. Although clearly it depends on how you come into it. If I'd had to remortgage the house, sell my kids into slavery, then the outlay would have been less justifiable, even though interest rates are low. But I have 25 years running my own pretty successful business away from this, and I appreciate that gave me some financial privilege to start the way I did. Question 4. Why did you start? Simply as a creative outlet. I mentioned that I'd done stand-up comedy for a bit. I love that. I got into it around my early 30s and it felt oddly like I'd found what I was always meant to be doing. But I was probably 10 or 15 years too late to start doing it. I had young kids, a busy job, and doing open mics for free at 1 AM in central London, 2 hours from home, 3 or 4 times a week, that just doesn't work. I tried writing stuff for TV, but that's depressing because you send off scripts to production companies and then you wait months to be told, no, not now. Basically, I wanted the immediate feedback I got off of doing stand-up without having to leave home, which I didn't think was possible to achieve until I got into motorcycling and realised that all the videos on YouTube of people travelling around on their motorbikes were rubbish. I thought I could create something better than that. So my youngest kid set up this channel 3 years ago so I could put my motorcycle holiday around Africa online. Of late, it's also become a means of staying motivated, to stay in shape and healthy and fit, because that's the focus of the channel now. I feel, whether it's real or not, an obligation to practice what I preach in that regard, but I certainly did not start to earn anything from it. Doing so is as sensible as going to a field with a ball and teaching yourself football so you can become a pro athlete. Statistically, after many years of trying, you'll still be someone stood in a field. Question 5. Do you get lots of free stuff? What I found was that around 3,000 subs, weird companies that had nothing to do with what I was talking about would get in touch with me and say, hey, talk about this random item. And that doesn't stop. I still get almost daily requests to include some nonsense thing or other in a video. I got one the other day for fashion watches, like the watch you might buy at a petrol station when you're filling up your car, be on a display unit near the counter next to the iPhone cables and the little pillows for sleeping on a plane. I ignore those companies. Then when I started to get some traction on the videos that I was doing on cycling, I did get a couple of companies that actually were relevant to what I was talking about start to talk to me. Wahoo are a good example. They said, hey, we see a lot of people are watching you on gear of ours that you already own. Let us send you some more bits and pieces and do with them as you want. That's a brilliant way to do stuff. And getting gear like that is very, very cool. And I hope cool for them too. My last cycling video had me sat on my Wahoo bike back there and around 300,000 views. So it's a nice two-way street. I do also get companies that I love to work with. They talk to me, but they want signed agreements and ownership of the video content and approval before it goes live. I don't do that. If something's rubbish, I want to be able to say it's rubbish. So yeah, I get a few bits and pieces, which is very cool. But something to bear in mind if you think it's worth starting a YouTube channel for the cool freebies, no, not at my level it's not. That video with 300,000 views, if you took all the money that made and added on the value of all the stuff I've ever been given by anybody, I could earn more in an afternoon at my regular job than that. And I sacrifice a large amount of time in my regular job to do this. So right now, I'm running at a gigantic loss no matter how cool the freebies are, although they are cool. I think it's a desk. Question 6, how quickly did the channel grow? I don't know how it compares to others, but it feels like for me, it kind of goes up in steps. It'll be pretty slow for a while and then something will take off and the numbers will jump up a bit and then it gets a bit of momentum for a while. Actually, I wonder if that might be comparable to lots of successful channels as well, albeit on a different scale. If you find your favorite YouTuber and you go right back to their earliest videos, you'll sometimes find that they spent a long time with a pretty small number of views per video. But then you'll see a video that for no obvious reason did particularly well, it attracts a bunch of new subscribers, and then things snowball from that. So for me, I began the channel September 11th, 2018. I was about to go to South Africa with Jenna and ride around the desert on our bikes. I thought that'd be a cool thing to film. and until the summer of the following year I did nothing but upload a handful of motorbike related videos after that one. And then towards the end of 2019 I started getting more into my fitness stuff, which culminated in me getting a sub 20-minute park run on the 1st of January 2020. And that was the moment my above average, be better than most type philosophy was really born, and then a desire to show people how I was achieving that. And as a result, the videos got more regular and I went from getting maybe a handful to maybe a couple of hundred views a day, and then sometimes around 1,000 views a day. And then obviously lockdown happened, and so my training moved indoors in here. I bought the Wahoo kicker bike. People seem to enjoy me discussing that. But the views stayed around 1,000 mark until December last year, about a year ago. I tried to climb a well-known route on Zwift, the indoor cycling platform, in under an hour. Was unsuccessful, but that video did quite well, and the follow-up video a few days later where I did get under the hour also did pretty well. As a result, even once that initial activity died down, I was left with 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 views a day. And then the second big bump came this September, a few weeks back, when first of all I ran a 100k ultramarathon. That attracted a lot of interest, and then did a video discussing my cycling progression over the last year and a half. That also did really well, and now again that initial activity has died down. I'm left with another bump, 10, 11, 12,000 views a day. So in summary, 3 years to get here, but the bulk of everything has come off the back of me falling off my bike a year ago and then running an ultramarathon. I'm not entirely sure how repeatable that is if you're looking for ways of mirroring my approach. Question 7, is it a full-time job? Yes and no. I work on it almost full-time hours to produce a couple of videos a week, and especially if you factor in the stuff like the races I'm filming outside, it's definitely full-time hours. I do some of those races anyway, but there's no doubt I do more because of this. And it's not just writing and filming and editing, it's chatting with you guys in the comments, keeping Instagram up to date, watching tutorials on how to make text move around the screen more dramatically, finding cool movie clips to include. It is a painfully time-consuming thing, at least the way I choose to do it is. When I see skateboarding cats, it does cross my mind that the effort to reward ratio is poor, but I don't own a cat or a skateboard.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
Question 8, what do your friends and family think about it? I get asked this by younger people a lot because they seem to worry more about what friends and family might think. I don't really care much. My kids have gone from that's the most embarrassing thing ever to secretly being impressed, although I'm sure they still get wound up when their schoolmates tell them, hey, your dad's killing it on YouTube. My wife is hugely supportive and at the same time not overly interested, which is perfect. She'll ask what my latest video is about, but then not bother to watch it. That's great. YouTube is not supposed to dominate our lives, even if it does take up a lot of mine. And other family and friends, they mention it now and then. I've kind of made it clear that I kind of regard this more as a job than a hobby now, so I don't need to be chatting about it all the time. So for example, if your auntie or your neighbour or whoever was a newsreader, you wouldn't say, hey auntie, I saw you on TV again last night, every time you saw her. That would be very odd indeed. So that's kind of the vibe that I go with giving off. A sort of slightly dickish anchorman that works out.
Just doing my workout. Tuesday's arms and back.
Question 9, are you recognised? Yes, and right now, the perfect amount. Whenever I jump online to ride on Zwift, I get a few people riding with me in the comments, say hi, they mention my dogs or Rocky 4 or whatever. And every now and then at a race out and about, somebody will come along and say, hey, I've watched the videos and that's all very cool. It's not intrusive. It makes me feel a tiny bit famous without any of the hassle of being famous. I love it. Even better though is when I get DMs on Instagram and stuff where people will say they lost a ton of weight or they started working out and feeling good because of the videos of mine they'd watched. And when that happens, that is brilliant. I love reading those. Would I still feel the same if it happened all the time and I was recognised all the time? I have no idea. I assume it would coincide with benefiting financially more, so it's a bit hard to put yourself out there, earn off doing so and then moan about such things. Right now, it's just very cool. Question 10, how do you decide what videos to make? When I started, I told myself I would only make the videos I wanted to make. In the fitness YouTuber world, there are so many people that just churn out this sort of, I ate like this random movie star for a day, or I trained like The Rock and here's what happened. Or just stuff reacting to some drama within the fitness YouTuber world. Like they're 12 years old in the playground. It's like, he said what and she said what? No, can't believe it. Maybe they enjoy that, but it just feels like they're chasing what they know gets views, no matter how daft it is. The trouble is, as you get bigger, the temptation to do that, which does work, is very, very high. I try not to do that. Instead, I try and look at what I'm doing for my own health, my own fitness, and just document that. And if something gets a lot of views, elaborate on it. And sometimes an idea just pops into my head, or someone suggests something in the comments, and it goes on to my little list of videos to do in the future. But the bottom line is, I can do my impression of Scorsese slagging off Marvel films as a lower class of entertainment all I like, and yes, I did just compare myself to Scorsese, but as this moves from hobby to job, to not give people what they want is kind of silly. If you ran a cafe and you only served your favourite cake when everyone's asking for carrot cake that you don't like, You'd make carrot cake, or you'd have a quiet cafe. So in summary, as I get more views, expect to see me churn out cliched nonsense. I followed Prince William's quad workout for 30 days, blah, 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 blah. Question 1 is always, how much money do you make from it? Not enough. I didn't even turn on monetization until September, October last year because I knew the money it would make would be almost irrelevant. And it was, around £5 at best, £10 a week until the Christmas Out the Zwift stuff last year. It then spent most of this year around £40 to £50 a week. And after the last bump up, it's settled around £200-300 a week. So in total, I've had about £4,500, and the bulk of that in the last few months. Now, it's exponential growth, so who knows where that goes. But so far, I guess like any new business, and whether you start counting me from the time I set up the account in September 18 or the day I turned on monetization last year, it's still a fairly new business. The money it makes is dwarfed by the money I've spent trying to make it. And if you work out what the hourly rate is by assessing the time spent on it, you'd wish you owned a cat and a skateboard. Just because the gateway to entry is so simple to overcome, it doesn't make the climb up once you are here any easier. It's actually a bit like stand-up comedy because anybody could go right now to a big city and get on stage at an open mic night and do some stuff tonight. That doesn't work in other industries. You can't go to the hospital and say, you don't need to pay me, just want to have a little go. But the number of people that move from doing an open mic to getting paid is small, and the number of people that move on again to getting paid properly is very small, and those that get paid enough to live on is tiny, and we're still a long way from getting on TV. Ultimately, any successful YouTuber or stand-up or any sort of entertainer really is at the tip of a gigantic iceberg which is made up of most people being unpaid, unheard of, and underwater. Probably not underwater, I did some ropey gigs but never fully submerged, you know what I mean. They're beneath a very small number of people at the top. Interesting, useful, I hope so. It's something I get asked about a lot, so that may have answered some of those questions that do crop up now and then. But if you have any more, please do not hesitate to stick them down below in the comments, or if you want me to elaborate on anything I've gone through, I am more than happy to do so in a future video. And of course, if you're watching this channel for the first time and think you might have an interest in the stuff that I talk about normally, please like and subscribe. Right, I am off. I've got to go see if I can teach my dog to ride my scooter.